What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another video. So it's been a little bit more than just a couple days, but we're here today and we're going to be trying to install the 2 remaining gauges that I have left. So if you guys remember, we got the exhaust gas temperature gauge, we got to install that, and we got the fuel ethanol percent gauge that we're going to be installing as well. So first things first, we have to remove the header on this car. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Not sure if I'll record that. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that right now. And then we're going to go ahead and take this header to an exhaust shop, have them weld on a little bung, so that way we can throw on that temperature sensor. And then we're going to go ahead and slap the header back on and finish the installation. So let's go ahead and do this really quick. It is now the next day. So I went ahead and took off my header and I went and got that bung welded on, and now the sensor's installed. So I'm going to show you guys what that looks like right now. So as you guys can see, that is the temperature sensor right there. I went ahead and measured 6 inches away from the port, and that's where I had them weld the bung in. I went ahead and did this off camera because when I was doing the removal of this header, my camera died and I didn't want to wait for my camera to charge to finish the job. This was the dirty job, the hard part, so I just wanted to get this out of the way. All right, now that we got this sensor in, we can go ahead and wire everything up and then also do the ethanol sensor. So let's go ahead and do that. And since we are going to be messing with the fuel system again, we do have to relieve the fuel pressure. So if you guys remember, you have to take off the fuse box. And then for me, it's this 15 amp fuse right there, the blue one. That's the fuel pump fuse. If you don't have the same car, just go ahead and check if you have a fuel pump fuse. Right there, it's kind of hard to show you, but it shows right there, that's a fuel pump fuse, and then you can go ahead and find it. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this. I'm going to start the car, I'm going to let it die off, relieve the pressure, and then we're going to be right back. I also realized I never put the fuse puller back, so that's fun. I'm just going to go ahead and use some pliers, but just be careful with these fuses. Don't want to break it. There we go. So now let's start the car. I'm going to run it one more time. Alright, that should do it. Alright, now that that's out of the way, we got to disconnect our battery. We also have to take off this pipe right here for my front mount intercooler. Just got to take off this nut, this one off the throttle body, the zip tie off the hose, and then my sensor right here. And then I'm going to take this pipe off. It's going to give me a little bit more room to work with the fuel hose because I need to tap into that return line. There we go. Just gonna get all this out of the way, make sure it's not gonna make any sparks, because that's gonna be a 4th of July a little early. I'm gonna grab my 11 and remove the nuts off of the front mount intercooler pipe. So I'm just gonna do that. So I think that's enough, and I'll be able to put some soapy water in there and pull this pipe out. Let's do the same to this. All right, now let's go ahead and take this zip tie off right here, off the blow-off valve. I'm just gonna send it with the razor. So I went ahead and took the zip tie off, that was right here. Then we're gonna try to pull that hose off, disconnect that plug, put some soap and water in between these, and then wiggle it free. There we go, now just a plug. Let's see if it will come off without soap and water first. That one's pretty loose. This is the connection that's on it. Good. Alright, I might need 2 hands for this. Let's see if I can post the camera up. And there we go. We now have access to the fuel line. So, let's see. Fuel pressure regulator. Hose goes right here. So this is the hose we're going to have to tap into. This one comes off of your fuel rails. It's the return. So I'm going to go ahead and find a good spot right here, and we're going to go ahead and tap into that with our ethanol sensor. Let me go grab the ethanol sensor, show you what we're doing. All right, so here's the gauge. Here's the sensor we're going to be installing. It's going to basically go into the fuel hose somewhere like that. I went and bought various little clamps here. I didn't know exactly how big that fuel hose was, so I just got a bunch of different sizes. These are going to be the quick connects that go right here, and then the other end goes into the fuel hose. I went and got 2 different sizes here because I wasn't sure which one would fit better. We're going to try those out, and then I'll show you guys which one I end up using. So this is pretty simple plug and play. I know I'm doing this a little backwards in my other video where I installed the harnesses first and then the sensors. I figured I want to do the sensors first in this video, and then I'm going to wire everything up. So anyways, this is going to be the harness. Let's just wire this fuel sensor into that hose, put everything back, and then let's get all the wiring done. We're also going to be utilizing this guy right here to cut the fuel hose, make it nice and clean. I'm also just going to take off one of these ends of the return line before cutting it, just to make sure all the fuel pressure is out of it. Alright, so I think what I'm going to do is disconnect this line right here off of the fuel pressure regulator with just this nut. I'm going to pull this off, pull this out, and it's going to give me a little bit more room to work with. After I finish, I'm just going to snake it back and connect it. So let's go ahead and pull this out completely. Oh, there's some fuel coming out. Okay. Just go ahead and wipe all this down. I went ahead and sprayed a little bit of fuel. Happens. Alright, so this is the hose we're working with right here. I'm going to put this to the side and clean up a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and cut it like right here in the middle, and that's where it's going to be connected. So let's go ahead and cut that hose. Let's get this in there. Alright, so I went ahead and cut it. Those are my two ends. So let's go ahead and see which quick connect fits better on those. So here's the difference between the two. One's a little thicker than the other one. So we're gonna go ahead and see which one of these, because I want it to be snug, so. I honestly think I'm gonna go with the bigger one. I can already tell it's gonna be better, but let's try anyways. So going with the small one first. It's actually a snug fit right off the bat. So before we put it all the way in there, let's go ahead and try this other one. It's a pretty snug fit too. I think I'm still gonna go with this one right here. Honestly, I think that's about as much as it's getting on there. That is such a tight fit. As you guys can see, that one is much thicker. But the reason I went with that is because the hole is so much bigger. I just don't want there to be any flowing issues. So I'd rather sit here and struggle and shoving this guy in here rather than put this guy in here and then have issues later. So I ended up going with this guy. So if you guys are wondering which one it is, it's just a 3/8 to 3/8 quick connect fuel line connector. Bought it on Amazon. I'm sure you can find it at your local auto parts store too. Now let's go ahead and get this other end on the other hose. Now, alright, so I'm gonna do the same thing to this hose right here. Now, before I put this on, since it was such a struggle, I'm gonna put a little bit of oil on this. Just a little bit around the edges. Now really quickly before I forget, I'm going to put these hose clamps on there and try to give it a little bit more of a secure fit. Now to clean all that up, I'm just going to put electric tape around it. There we go, looking good. Now let's go ahead and do the same thing into this end. And there we go, another one complete. All right, now it's just a matter of connecting this guy and this guy together. So here's what we're gonna do is take off these caps. Just gonna clip this on until we hear a little click. There we go, that's a connection. Take this guy off until we hear a click. There we go. Now this is how I wanted to route it, like so. Now I just have to connect this end to this right here. Not forget this guy. And alrighty, so there we go. Now I could have just cut this and just connected it so it's shorter, but I actually want this extra length for my Cobb Flex Fuel sensor for later because I'm also gonna install it in the same location. So now we got all of this stuff wired up. We could put my pipe back for the front mount intercooler because this won't be a problem to connect to. And then let's go ahead and start wiring up all of our gauges. So we're not gonna use all of those. Some of those are to connect to the computer. So anyways, let's go ahead and put this pipe back on and start connecting power and ground and get these gauges actually all hooked up and ready to go. I'm gonna go ahead and do this off camera, putting this back because I don't want to make another really long video. So I'll be right back. All right, you guys, so here's the Innovate gauge and here's the AEM exhaust gas temperature. So we're gonna grab both of these harnesses. So as you guys can see, this is not very long. This is where we're gonna be connecting the power and the ground, this red and black wire right here. That doesn't give me much room. I'm only gonna extend the power and ground to these, and I'm gonna connect both of these to one fuse tap, like so. And then I'm gonna connect the ground wire to the same source as well. So you need at least a 5 amp fuse for one of these, is what they say. I'm gonna put a 10 amp fuse in here since I'm connecting both of them to the same fuse tap. And you know, just in case. So I'm gonna go ahead and connect these together. I'm only gonna extend it by like 2 feet, nothing major. And then we're gonna see if we have to extend any of the actual harnesses to the sensors, but I don't think we do, so let's see. All right, so here's how we're gonna do this. We're gonna go ahead and connect these two reds together and then extend them with about a 2 foot long wire. I'm just gonna chop off all the wires that I don't need at the moment. So just gonna be the white, the brown, and the yellow. Get these guys out of the way. Just gonna give them a little bit of tape. All right, I'm gonna do the same thing to this right here. So the brown and the white. Now we're only gonna mess with these wires right here. All right, just use what you have at your disposal to hold these wires down and solder them up. Now let's do the same to this ground. So this side's all soldered up as well. Not the best job, but you know, it'll work. Slide this little bit of shrink wrap on, shrink it up. So that's what it should look like right there when you have the power and the ground extended a little bit. Only have extended a bit. Now this next part's pretty simple. I'm just gonna go ahead and attach this to the ground part and the fuse tap to the power. Once I get those done, we're gonna be ready to install this into the car. All right, now that we have the sensors installed, I'm gonna have to do the same thing with the jacking up this car, removing this wheel, fender liner. Then we're gonna be moving on over here. We're gonna remove this little cover, this piece, and then we gotta remove the cluster plastic around the cluster. So there's only 2 screws and then it pulls out. So I'm gonna go ahead and take all this off. In my last video, I already did this on camera, showed you all the little clips and everything. So I'm gonna do this off camera just to speed things up. We're gonna go ahead and be right back after all this is removed and this is ready to go ahead and have access to the fuse box and install everything. All right, I apologize that it might be a little bit dark in this video, but really quickly, so to remove this little plastic piece around your guys' gauge cluster, there's gonna be 2 Phillips bolts that go right underneath here. You wanna remove those. Then you wanna go ahead and pull up on this like so, and then just pop it out. There's just clips holding it in. As you can see, there's gonna be these 2 bolts in the top and then just clips holding it around. So that's how you remove this piece, and we're gonna be replacing it with the other one. And I also went ahead and removed all those plastics. So now we are ready to do a fuse tap and install the gauges. So here's the difference between the two. Look pretty much like the same thing. Now we do have a little dilemma again with these on how to secure them. So this is how they look, and this is how these gauges get secured from the back. But obviously that's not gonna work with these. As you can see, this is how they're gonna look on there. But they're kind of loose. And there's no way to tighten them down because there's no way I'm gonna be able to get this piece in there and screw it down. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and do a little dab of super glue on each side. That's gonna hold them in place, sanding it. Don't really know anything else. If you guys know a better way of doing it, let me know and maybe I'll do it that way and hope that the super glue comes off easy. Also really quickly, let me show you guys the final product here on these wires. So this is the fuse tap with the 10 amp fuse all soldered up, and this is going to be where I put the bolt in for the ground. So everything's ready to go, get wired up. Let's go ahead and see what we can do here. So now we're going to go ahead and plug this into the car, and then we're going to start actually snaking the harness and plugging it into the sensors. All right, you guys, so I went ahead and stuck my gauges and my wires through here. Got my gauges in here just temporarily like so. So this is my 2 fuse taps that we have going on here so far, which is actually The two that are hooked up are the cigar and the audio navigation. That's where I tapped into. Now for the third one, I'm gonna go ahead and tap this one into the seat heater because that's a 15 amp and then this is a 10 amp. So I wanted something that was a little bit, that's less than the one I'm tapping into. Otherwise I would have to change this to a 7.5 if I wanted to tap into another 10 amp fuse. Or if I wanted to get into a 7.5 amp fuse, I would need to put a 5 inside of there. I just feel a little bit better with putting a 10 amp for the 2 gauges and then tap it into the 15. So let's go ahead and do that. That's going to be the 15A. Now we got to do the ground. Debating if I want to use the same bolt. I'm not sure if it's a good idea to do all of the gauges on one ground. Actually, I decided I will ground it all to the same location. So if this gives me issues, then I'll change it later. If this isn't a good idea to do, let me know because I'm not exactly sure. It's just a ground, so I don't see the harm in putting them all in the same spot. I'll try to have it nice and tight though, so that way it has a nice stable ground connection. There we go. Fuse is in, ground is on. Let's go ahead and connect the battery. Let's see if these even work before we connect the sensors. And we've already got power. All right, so we already have power. So the fuse we tapped into is constant 12 volts. So that's not good. We're gonna need to switch the fuse because we only want this to power when we turn on the car. Hey, at least we know they work. That's a good sign. But still, that's gonna need a change right there. So as you can see, the car's not even on. So let me go ahead and look at the fuse diagram really quick and then see the next best option for our fuse tap. All right, you guys, so I have finally buttoned everything up and actually connected the harnesses to the sensors. I went ahead and snuck them through the same place I did my other gauges, just through the firewall. The grommet over here came out, and then this is part of the wires. So as you guys can see, it's plugged in right there. That's the sensor plugged in. And then I have the one underneath plugged in as well. Sorry if you guys can't really see. So I've yet to start the car. I just connected the battery. Everything is buttoned up here as well. So I went ahead and did my wire management. These are still really loose in here. I didn't do anything to it. I might just wait a little bit, see if you guys have any recommendations on how I can put these on here nice and snug without having to utilize super glue. So yeah, let me go open the garage a little bit and then we're gonna try to start this car. All right, my neighbors are gonna hate me right now, but what can you do? So this is looking good. I'm gonna go ahead and just prime this fuel pump one more time, even though we probably did this a million times. Now if only this was red. No, I'm just kidding, I don't care. Honestly, it doesn't bother me. I knew it was gonna be this color. That's why I put it on the right side so all these ones match, and then this one's on this side right here. But all right, anyways, let's go ahead and start it up and let's see what happens. There's my ethanol percent, just premium gas. I'm about to get ready to do E85 on this car. I have to do one more thing, and that's purchase the Cobb Flex Fuel sensor, so that way they can go ahead and tune this car with E85. I'm going to purchase that pretty soon, so keep an eye out for that. And as you guys can tell, I tried to make this video a little bit shorter than the previous one, so if I left a couple things out, I do apologize. But that is going to be it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, hit that like button and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you guys in my next videos. Have a good day. Peace out.